been about a month and a half, and I actually didn't have really any withdrawal symptoms going off of tea cold turkey. I was on a really low topical daily dose, so maybe that was part of it. I don't know if it's different if you're doing spaced out like subcutaneous shots. I'm also just, as a person, really like anemic and low energy, so it didn't, like, I wasn't going from feeling great to bad. It was going from like bad to the same level of bad. So I mean, your mileage will vary immensely with that, I'm sure. But cold turkey has been fine for me. I really didn't notice anything that I was sure was related to going off of tea. Nothing about me, I think, has really changed. Maybe my face has softened the world's tiniest bit. Otherwise, my like comparison selfies are just at slightly different angles. It doesn't really matter at this point. I'm still living as male full-time in real life, so at school and at my job and everything like that. I don't plan on changing that. I think that I'm not worrying about pronouns or anything. I think I'm just going to let my body and the world do whatever they do with each other. So when people start seeing me as female, then I'll change everything back, and then when I go to like the DMV or need to show my ID, nobody's going to be confused or suspect anything because it'll match what they see. So until then, I'm just letting everything do what it does, and really trying to focus on the internal stuff, since that's probably the problem for pretty much everyone. I did pick, as I don't know if you might have seen my first video within the first couple days of uploading it, but I've picked a first name, which is fun. I say picked, but for me personally, I want my names to be given to me. Not in the sense of like ordering someone to give me a name, but as in like waiting and seeing what comes from the broader universe, which sounds super crunchy, but for me, it's ended up with things I'm much happier with and that feel like they came to me at the right moment in time, and so I'm happy keeping them forever. That's what my middle name was. Lee was the last name of a classmate, but her brother's name was Samuel Lee, and I thought that was gorgeous. So like, okay, well, I want to take that one. I think that sounds really good. So my parents, coincidentally, they would have killed me if I didn't let them pick my first name when I transitioned, because they were not happy. And so my mom picked Samuel, which, okay, like, I never used it. I went by my middle name everywhere. They don't know that, so don't, like, come to my house and tell them. But it doesn't really mean anything, and I think part of it is because it didn't come to me is why it never really worked. It's kind of obviously male. It's just like some Bible name. It doesn't even mean anything important, so I never liked it. But when I was looking for something more neutral for a first name, maybe you'll know where it's from if we listen to the same music, but Rylan sort of came into my life, and I tucked it in my pocket, waited until I had a chance to really confirm that it was what I wanted. The confirmation test was a great success, and so that's what I'll be using when I get a chance to. As soon as the time is right, I'll be switching over to Rylan, which is, I don't know, it's exciting to finally have a name that came to me for me rather than being handed down by someone who picked it before they even knew who I was going to be. And I don't think it's weird to do that. You should do whatever seems like the right thing to do for you. And so I'm quite happy with this one. One of the meanings is wherever I grows, and I've lived all over the place, but I definitely deeply consider myself from Eastern Washington, which grows a lot of legumes and tall yellow grass and things like that. So I think it's going to be a really great one to carry around wherever I live, to sort of have that bit of the desert in my heart always. I'm still on an emotional level, I'm still really struggling with seeing myself as female again, mostly because of the world though, and not so much because of something intrinsic in me. As you know, girls are raised from like the second they start to have bodily autonomy that everything they're doing is wrong. And so, especially moving every year or so across the country growing up, I would go somewhere and get bullied for like, you have so much arm hair, like what are you, a werewolf? That's ugly, it's stupid, get rid of it. So like, okay, fine, fuck it, I'll shave my arms so people leave me alone. And then we'd move to a different state and they'd be like, why do you shave your arms? That's stupid, like what are you, what's wrong with you? So to grow back. And so the onus was always on me to to fix myself so other people didn't think I was ugly when I was like 12 or 13, as opposed to, hey, please stop like telling 12-year-olds that they're wrong for like having a body. And that's something I never really unlearned, I think, because it went on for so long and was so consistent. I'm still really insecure, and when I was living as male, or as I'm living as male, I'm still really insecure about it. Like, I don't wear short sleeves or shorts or anything. And so that's gonna be a trip. That's a hard one. I am trying to get rid of, I've never had like a full beard because I didn't like them before I transitioned. I still wouldn't want one. I've always preferred like a more androgynous look for myself. And so finding a way to get rid of all that without electrolysis is going to be interesting, mostly because I have like incredibly strong follicles and it's impossible to get a close shave. So we'll see what happens there. My period came back too, like within 3 weeks of getting off of tea. I don't know. I've heard some people can go like 6 months before it comes back, but every time I've had to go off for like I couldn't afford it or something like that, it would always come back like pretty much immediately. It's not as heavy as it was last time I had to go off of tea, which is really nice. For the technical aspect, I have been having some spotting though, so watch out for that. If you too have the world's most tenacious uterus. And so I guess that's the vanity part, is I don't look female enough, so I'm not confident calling myself female, as if there's ever one way to look. I've seen some of you guys, you look amazing, and I don't know why, we all know why we're so hard on ourselves and so like normal and reasonable with other people, but that's how it is. And so that'll be something that's still something to work on. I haven't, like, other than a really wonderful detransition group on Facebook, I haven't come out, or like I don't go into female spaces yet, mostly because I feel like I'd be invading them. Like I've been away for almost 5 years, that coming back seems like, I don't know, just like putting on another costume and being like, oh, like I'm one of you now, like you have to take me back uncritically, when I would understand if people were skeptical, because I've lived as a man and still look and do live as a man. So I'd be, I don't know, ashamed or embarrassed to step back into those spaces. Sorry, my screen. That distracted me. So yeah, it's just kind of the worry that I'm co-opting spaces or resources or things like that that has kept me from looking for connections outside of that one really lovely Facebook group. So what is that? The physical, social, and the last thing I want to talk about is what I used to do pre-T and while I was on T, before I knew I would detransition, about dysphoria and, like, I guess just dissatisfaction with having been born a woman. Because I don't like being in between. I'm not tough enough to be non-binary. I don't want to always feel like people are going to find me out for one thing or the other. And since I know I'm not going to transition fully to male, I might as well go back. And what helped me a lot was kind of, if you think of, I know the media and society only really ever sells you one type of woman. And so as someone who didn't fit that type, and probably never will fit that, definitely never will fit that type, I hate children. It was finding women who fit the type of person like I would have been okay being, the type of person I already was but couldn't, I don't know, verbalize or act on being, and still really can't. So I'd recommend going towards the kind of media or group of people that you connect best with already. For me, I'm a really big music person. I love it, I love it, I love it. And so there are a couple musicians that I listened to a lot in high school, and currently I still adore them, who their writing and their attitudes and how they look and conduct themselves really fit more with, like, okay, if I was like that, I would be okay with myself. Like, this is, you can be like me and you can exist, and I think you're really cool. Which means that if I could be myself, I'd also think I was really cool and I'd be okay. And so collecting those kind of role models, even if you never actually interact with them, just knowing that they're out there and speaking about things that make sense to you, I think that's really important to find. Music and then books too. Like, if you've read any of these, like, come talk to me about them. I love them. But the Poisonwood Bible, I don't know if anyone remembers Anne Rice's Vampire Chronicles. Those are good. And then there's like a newer book called The Atomic Weight of Love. Just like find the media that you connect with, and then find women in those books that you connect with. So Ada Price from Poisonwood, Gabrielle de Liancourt, right? Lestat's mom, who like cuts her hair and goes and lives in the woods alone for like centuries as a wild creature. That really, really hit me hard as a kid, and still, like, she's so cool. Like, that's exactly what I want to be. I don't want to feel like I have to soften myself or dumb myself down to be safe anymore. Because that's not who I am. Like, I'm snappy, I want to fight, I love to dig into things, I'm curious, I'm active. But I can't, especially girls are always torn down for that sort of thing, and so I've always tried to repress it. And so finding people who do what you would naturally do if you felt like you could get away with it, and seeing them get away with it, can be really healing and helpful. Think of it as like, I'd say if, like, I'm a science major, I study medical lab technology, and so think of it as if, like, a woman, like female humans as an entity, as a group, are like the domain, right? And then as you go down, you get more and more specific types of woman, and you yourself are the only member of your species, right, of female-born person. And so I'd say find your genus. Like, find other women who seem to see womanhood in the same way you do, who live their lives in a way that you wish you could live your life, or that you do live your life if you're already confident enough to do that. And even if you never talk to them directly, surround yourself with that sort of influence and keep them around as a reminder that you can do this. You are allowed to do that, whatever it is.